This is Guardian Radio, your station for up-to-the-minute news and intelligent, interactive, and engaging conversations. 96.9 FM. The views and opinions of the hosts and guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect the views of the management and staff of Guardian Radio.
Wake up, it's a new day. Wake up, it's a new day.
Good morning and welcome to Morning Blend Business on this Wednesday, June 25th, 2025. Welcome back to Morning Blend listeners. Once again, I'm Dwight Strawn. Chester Robards is with us all the way from Nigeria. Chester, you're still there, right? Uh-oh. Did we lose him? Oh, I think we lost him. Okay. Hopefully he'll get back in with us. But it is time for our monthly series with NIB, the National Insurance Board. And today we are talking about compliance. It's a hot issue after what we heard earlier in the week. Here to guide us through this, we're very pleased to have with us, she's been on before, yes, Acting Compliance Department, Gemma Roach. And we have Senior Inspector with the Compliance and Inspector Department, Marvin Duncombe, and Assistant Manager of Public Relations, Rudina Baisden. Everybody, welcome. Good to have you with us.
Thank you.
Welcome.
It's good to be here.
Good morning. Good morning, listening audience.
Okay, so lots to talk about here. So let's give the basics before we get into it. Compliance, specifically, what are we talking about here? And percentage-wise, if you can, tell us what we are dealing with.
All right. So first and foremost, it's really a pleasure to be here. I'm being ably assisted by my most proficient Senior Inspector, Mr. Marvin Duncombe. But to answer your question, Dwight, the Inspectorate Unit of the NIB Compliance Department has commenced an island-wide field exercise in areas that we have identified as low compliance or revenue underperformance. All right. This operation is formally known as the Compliance, Performance, and Recovery Initiative, also coined as CPR. CPR is really a part of our commitment.
It's an interesting name.
Yeah. Resuscitation, revival, right? Exactly. And so CPR is really a part of the National Insurance Board's commitment to fairness and accountability. We're making sure that everyone, in particular our employers, do their part in ensuring that the employees' rights, so by extension, ensuring the sustainability of the National Insurance Program. We have deployed our teams of trained and knowledgeable inspectors and law enforcement personnel to inspect businesses and their proprietors where need be, where we have determined that there are outstanding arrears. And I just want to plug here in stating that National insurance contribution payments are due at the end of each month. Mm-hmm. Sometimes we hear feedback from employers saying that, well, I pay every 3 months or I pay twice a year or something. I mean, that's probably their modus operandi. It's probably more convenient for them. Mm. And so that's the way that you decide to pay. However, it does not negate the fact that national insurance contributions are due at the end of each month.
Is it not a violation or against the law to do that?
It is a violation, and so I just wanted to clarify that because sometimes I think persons feel that they have that option, right? So the grace period is going to be anywhere from the end of the month of the following month. So we try to be fair. We give you about 2 weeks to make your payments thereafter. Those payments are considered overdue, and they do attract interest. All right.
So would you be considered non-compliant if you're doing that? Do you notice a pattern that it's every 3 months this person is paying, but do they fall into the non-compliant category?
They absolutely would fall in that. Yeah, because they're due at the end of each month.
Yeah.
And so what our CPR teams have done, they've already begun, and we will continue to do so. We will continue to inspect every non-compliant employer and self-employed person to ensure that they are meeting their national insurance obligations. But at the same time, we're also offering help where needed. So CPR is not strictly just about enforcement. It's also about education and customer support, and making the system beneficial for everyone. So maybe you're not familiar, but NIB is really modernizing itself. We have come of age with a lot of our newer services. So gone are the days, or at least we're trying to avoid, where persons would approach NIB for a benefit, let's say, for example, retirement benefit, and then they receive the surprise of their life, right? To find out that their employer has not paid their contributions. And that's really heartbreaking. I can tell you, as a former inspector, I have experienced that. Sometimes those businesses have moved, the owners have passed away. And so it's persons, what we want to do and what we have done is we've allowed persons greater access to view their contribution history.
Right.
So we have two main forms. First form can be in hard copy, where you can visit our KYC department and any of our customer services departments at any of our offices. So KYC stands for Know Your Contributions. And so once you ask for a KYC statement, you'll have your contribution history printed out for you so that you can review, question, scrutinize, verify any of your contributions. That's the first way.
And that's free? Can you do that?
That is completely
Wow,
free.
okay.
Yes. It's beautiful, right?
That's beautiful. That is very good.
Yes.
How long does it take to get that?
Not long at all. It's really just a click of a mouse.
10 minutes.
Max.
Yeah.
Yeah. Once you produce your
Excellent.
identification, you can walk out of NIB and you can verify all of your contributions. Another way is through our registrant self-service portal. So that's newer. That's electronic, obviously. Once you sign up for RSS, registrant self-service, log in at any time into your RSS account, view your contributions in real time. So as opposed to you maybe coming to the KYC department and getting a printout, you can log in at any moment in time. And you can see in real time how many contributions you have, where you are, who should be paying, who has. We're putting you in the driver's seat as an employee. And so that's really important. We also have ESS. So alternatively, we have our employer self-service portal. And I think maybe a lot of your viewing or listening audience, sorry.
They can see us too.
They can see us too. Okay. So a lot of your audience may be familiar with ESS. ESS we've seen a real uptick in a lot of businesses who like the ESS platform, who've been using it. Obviously, we do everything with our cell phones and logging onto the internet nowadays. So the response has been good. And so what that does, that allows employers to pay their contributions real time, credit card, they can get their receipts, post contributions, all of that, as opposed to the traditional way where you would perhaps create a manual C10, or even if you're using an electronic one, you still have to print it out, bring it to NIB, pay with the cashiers, all of that, park, drive, river, all that stuff. So,
Right.
So
No need for that.
no need for that. And then lastly, we have more.
And there's
exactly.
more.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. We're really stepping it up. We have our Easy Submit and Pay C10 mobile app. That is the latest. Yeah, that's the latest addition to our newer services. So what the Easy Submit and Pay C10 mobile app does, businesses or self-employed persons to pay their contributions using the mobile app. So it's more tailored to businesses with, say, 10 persons or less, as well as self-employed persons. All right. So, yeah, we have a variety of options.
No excuses.
So, Dwight, you know what that means? No one should be non-compliant with NIB, right?
All right, so many questions, Joe. Let's adjust that mic one more time. I don't know what's happening there.
All right.
So are you now, what percentage of people are you, like you said earlier, are getting a surprise? Are you seeing that number decrease? Or are you still having too many people leaving shocked when they come in, maybe for the KYC or checking online themselves?
Right. So the figures per se, I won't be able to speak to that, but I can tell you that there's more that we can do. When we say we, talking about compliance, talking about employers, all of us, because this is a team effort. Really and truly, national insurance by design is designed for the collective, right? It's based on the universality principle, which is the underlying theory of Social Security. Your contributions, my contributions, everyone's contributions helps the collective. It helps all of us. And so can more be done? Absolutely. And this is why CPR has been birthed. It is an initiative that is birthed strictly within the compliance department of the National Insurance Board. We want our inspectors to do more, and we also want the public to see that we are doing more. I think the director would have made a comment earlier this week when we had our ceremony that NIB is no longer passive, but we want to be present.
Okay.
And so, I echo the words of our minister as well. NIB is coming to you. And so we've done that. We've already begun our exercise. Senior Inspector Marvin Duncombe, he has been one of our team leads. And I mean, their team, in my opinion, did an excellent job. He can give you a lot more as it relates to that exercise and how it would have went and the response that we're getting from the public as well.
Yeah, Marvin, I want to get to that in just a second. But I got to ask you this. So you mentioned people who think they can pay 3 months in 3-month installments. You're saying those are considered non-compliant.
Absolutely.
Is that the majority of what is considered non-compliant, or are there just people who aren't paying at all?
So to be quite honest with you, Dwight, we have persons who are simply not paying at all.
That's the majority of the non-compliant people?
I will say it's a significant amount.
Okay.
We have entities who, I don't know, perhaps they may believe that national insurance is optional, it's an alternative, it's not necessarily something that they are mandated to do. But the National Insurance Act and National Insurance, we've been around for 52 years. Everything we do is according to statute. We are a creature of statute. And so every employer must pay national insurance contributions on behalf of their employees. Every self-employed person, meaning you are a proprietor or you are an independent contractor, you must pay national insurance contributions.
Marvin?
To add to it, I mean, you'll be surprised the amount of people who say to me, I don't need to pay an NIB because I have my own insurance.
Oh, wow.
Because they really think that it is a private insurance of the sort. People say to me, I'm doing fine. I have enough money to take care of myself, therefore I don't need it. And so what we are trying to stress here is not about whether or not you need it, it's the law. The law says that anyone who is gainfully employed, they ought to pay NIB contributions. And so there are people in this country who've not paid any contribution at all.
Ever.
Prominent people do.
Wow.
I mean, we won't get into those details, but not one contribution at all because they figure, I got it, I have enough money. But seriously, the law says that anytime you work, anytime you get a salary, that contribution is due. So, yeah, there are people who feel as if I just don't need to do it.
Yeah.
But we're coming after every single one.
All right, so
And to
Marvin, tell us more about that. When you encounter those people, what do you do?
Well, the law gives us the ability to do several things. I mean, we first of all engage with them to try to figure out a plan. If we can put a plan in place, we have an installment agreement situation. If you have an arrears going back, say 10 years, and you can we can put a plan together so you can seek to correct the arrears. But when we see that you don't want to, then we begin the initial process, and the law gives us the right to serve you, to give you service to let you know that you are in breach and that you need to make sure to bring your thing up to date. And if you don't do so, we will prepare a case, send it up to legal. Legal will prepare something to go to court, and soon you'll be getting a summons to go to court. And so this is very serious. We don't want to get to this place at all. That's why we go out and we try to build a relationship. Me, myself, Dwight, I'm a relationship builder. All of my clients, I have about 500 people under my area, and they can tell you, I come to them and I want to sit down with them. I want to find a way to work things out. But make no mistake about it, we have the right to prosecute people who do not want to bring their business into compliance. And people are depending on these contributions. Pregnant women who come to me and they're in tears because the employer didn't pay that person, and they would have taken the money deducted from them and didn't remit that to NIB. There's a word for that, Dwight. It's called stealing.
Oh, you was a good one.
It's called stealing.
Teething.
That's right. You're thieving. You took the money from the woman, and now the woman is in need of a maternity benefit, and she can't access it because you didn't pay it. Yeah. Right. We have to be tough on those kinds of people. Yes, we want to be lenient to people who are reasonable, and we want to help bring you into compliance. But if you want to take that stand, then we certainly have a way to deal with that as well.
Well, a lot of employees want to know how many people have you taken to court and what happens. What are we looking at in terms of numbers? Can you say?
So we're not able to say a department. It's called the legal department. And they can probably better speak to that. But definitely as it relates to compliance, we are the feet and the hands, right? Compliance is perhaps the most critical department in the National Insurance Board. As you know, NIB is not a government entity. We are a public corporation. So what that means is all of our funds, all of our resources are it comes from us. We're self-sustained. And so obviously we are vested in making sure that contributions are paid. Right? Because it affects us, it affects the public, it affects our investments, it affects everything. But most importantly, Marvin would have really touched on, for me, is a sore spot. We are people first, right? I don't know how anyone really would take kindly to a company that is purporting to make deductions, taking it out of their salary.
My goodness.
But not remitting it to the National Insurance Board. Since, unfortunately, experience, like I said earlier, the shock of their lives when they come to NIB under the assumption that for years, this particular employer has been paying their national insurance contributions, and they're told, you don't qualify. These are the type of situations that we're trying to prevent. And this is why our leadership in their wisdom have developed platforms like RSS, like ESS. We want to make it easy. We don't want any hindrances or encumbrances to employers paying. So we know that you can pay. We've covered that. So while you're not paying, that's when the compliance department has to step in. And so I will say to this, get to us before we get to you. CPR is literally a team. We're not talking about one inspector visiting a particular business. We're talking about a unit. And we do have law enforcement personnel as well. And so we're just, obviously for safety reasons, but we really want the public that this is a concerted, sustained effort to maintain compliance and the sustainability of the National Insurance Program.
All right. Callers will get you in a bit. Radina, and add something.
I'm really happy Gemma harped on the fact that we're people behind the National Insurance Board. Everyone sitting at this table was a previous inspector or a current inspector, so we understand the role of inspectors. But again, behind these people, behind these individuals, behind the faces of NIB, behind those of us who are doing the vital work of NIB, because we're the only entity that does what we do, Social Security in the country, are very, very, very real people first and foremost, right? I don't know if this puts Marvin on the spot, but I remember he shared a story growing up of how he himself benefited from NIB. So if I would like if you can share that story, because at the end of the day, we all have a story and we want to remind people what NIB is here to do.
So 1977, my father's driving and he gets into a car accident, he dies. My mother has 10 children. Wow. 10 children. I'm 4 years old. My brother Dimitri has some small children, and she has nowhere to turn. 1977, and the National Insurance Board was created in 1974. And someone told her to go to NIB. She goes to NIB to find out that my father made no contribution at all. Wow. But there's a there is a situation there where NIB allows you to get an assistant called survivor's assistant. And they were able to give my mother an assistant with her children. And I think they paid for about 6 of us at the time, maybe about $120 each. But can you imagine having $600 and something now as opposed to nothing? She was unemployed.
Right. Yeah.
And as a result of that, she was able to cause us to go to school in Andros. We grew up in Andros, a very poor two-room house, and was able to go get an education, to be able to get an associate's degree for me, to get a bachelor's degree for me, to get a master's degree from Clemson University, to stand here on this platform. I'm not standing here because I love NIB that much. I'm standing here because NIB has proven that it takes care of its people.
Yeah.
And I'm a recipient of it.
Wow.
Thank God
That's
for
a powerful
it.
story.
Yes, sir.
Yes. And let's just be real, Dwight, NIB is a social security blanket. Most persons for the last 5 decades, they've come to know that when you are incapacitated from working for whatever reason, whether it's because you're unemployed or you are, like Marvin said, a dependent of a deceased breadwinner where you need survivor's benefit, or if you're at the end of your work life, or you become an invalid or you get injured on the job, most persons know that should these things happen in my life, there is a building on Blue Hill Road, a blue and white building, that I can go into and submit some documents and I can receive payment. And we know that there are lives attached to every claim. This is why we're doing what we're doing. They're not just claim numbers. They're not just paperwork to us. They're actual people. Like Marvin gave a very, very obviously real life personal experience that are waiting for assistance.
Yeah.
And this is why it's incumbent upon us to hold employers accountable. And so we're saying this because, we want every business person that's listening today to please come in, pay your national insurance contributions. If you have difficulty with meeting your arrears, seek your inspector. Every single registered with NIB is assigned to an inspector.
Yeah.
So there is a person on the front line who is your first line who you can reach out to.
Right, and these people are very reachable. You may hear, I couldn't get in touch with my inspector, they're never there. Their job is on the road. So I assure you, they have a board cell phone that's assigned to them. They have a desk line, they have emails, but they are out there on the road primarily. And, just to step aside from that for a second, even though we're here to make a plea to employers to do their part, what I want employees to take away as well, because I want to give some advice to them. Trust but verify.
Wow.
Do not wait until you need to come in and get a benefit from NIB and get that surprise where you're at the end of your work life and you realize that employer you work for, that hotel that shut down, and that HR manager who moved back to Germany or wherever they're from, and now you need to scramble and get contributions because you didn't check. We can avoid that. Every year, twice a year, check your contributions. I work at NIB, but I double check to make sure that they are paying for me.
Right.
Because when the time comes, whether it's a short-term benefit that I need now or at the end of my work life or whatever happens, I want those contributions there. I need them there because this is a pillar, one pillar. You cannot live off of what NIB provides to you at the end of your work life or
Right.
whether there's an interruption in your income, but it is one vital, necessary pillar that people need. So check your contributions, whether that's getting the physical printout or through the register and self-service portal.
All right, so the phone lines are all lit up. I have lots of questions of the text line as well. Any chance a trigger in the system, like you've noticed 4 years you've been working and then 4 years no contributions have come in and then the back on and off. Is there any way that sends a signal to you all, or does it work like that?
Not necessarily, because there can be where you have a legitimate break. You may legitimately have gone to school for 4 years abroad.
Okay.
And then you return. So not necessarily, but the inspector's primary job, they have the full power and the support of the law to enter a business premises at reasonable hours, to inspect wage records, to ask questions to verify that the information is correct. They have that power, and that is their job. They go in, they scrutinize the circumstances, scrutinize the wage records, make sure that everything is compliant. And so, yeah, that's primarily, and honestly, I think that field operations and being able to touch and feel is a lot better than simply having a flag or, in the system.
Right.
Because there's so many nuances with being an inspector.
Sure.
Yeah.
All right. We're talking with Gemma Roche, Marvin Duncombe, and Rudina Basden with NIB. We're talking about compliance. Before we get to these calls, I want to ask you about this interesting story in the Guardian business section today. Our friends at the Chamber of Commerce urging NIB to ensure records being used to justify noncompliance are accurate. What do you make of that? You want me to read a little bit of it?
Yeah.
Okay, so
Expound a bit.
the Bahamas Chamber of Commerce and it was make sure its records are accurate and are up to date when approaching businesses on allegations of NIB contribution noncompliance. Executive Director Dr. Leo Roll telling Guardian Business that while they support the fiscal responsibility behind and push toward compliance of members who may be noncompliant, we caution the board to ensure that the records being used to justify noncompliance are accurate and up to date to avoid frustration and backlash from the business community.
So, the first thing that I think of is, are these businesses really communicating with their inspectors?
It's key.
That's really key. Because if you're communicating with your inspector, you're sending your records as you should, because you can't just send payment. So I think we can clarify, we can stick a pin right here. When you, as an employer, make your contribution payments, it is twofold. So it's not simply remitting funds. You must also send your C10 records. All right? C10 records actually verify and confirm who the payment is being applied. You're sending C10 records and you're sending your payments along with your records to your inspector, making sure that they also have that information as well. There's no reason for the system to give false information.
Right.
And obviously, if there is some discrepancy, you want to speak with your inspector. Like I said, every single business has an assigned inspector to it. And so this is where that relationship is going to be key.
So,
Right.
Marvin?
Yeah. So there are very, very few instances where an employer would pay and it wouldn't reflect in our system. Very few. However, though, sometimes when the payment comes and the C10 comes, sometimes there is a delay in the posting of the records. And I understand that as an inspector, and employers talk to me about it all the time, that there are sometimes delays and frustration where they would pay sometimes, and it takes us maybe 2 or 3 months to get them posted. It's not that the payment is not there, but that can be easily remedied if you contact your inspector.
Right.
And I've many times employee would come and they go to the clerks or something and so maybe say to them, oh, I don't see anything here on your thing. It doesn't pay for you. It's not that it doesn't pay for you. It's just that the payment is made.
Right.
It has not been posted as yet. A lot of posting to be done. And if you speak to your inspector, I go right in the system and say, yes, the payment is here.
Okay, so they wouldn't be considered non-compliant.
No, not in that case there. Right.
Okay.
So-
Rudina?
I mean, there's a whole lot we can probably say about that statement because my mind's just going.
Yeah.
Again, former inspector, everybody at this
Yeah.
table, it is a relationship. Marvin alone has some 500 plus
Yeah.
entities under him. So what I always like to paint how many employees does that company have?
Oh, boy.
I will not know everything. I will not know when every employee starts, when they get a promotion, when they resign and leave and you take on somebody else, we're on the maternity leave, etc. So the onus is then on the employer. But in order to ensure that the employer is doing what they are supposed to do, that's where we ask the employees to trust but verify, check your contributions, and let us know. And if something is erroneous or inaccurate, you come and report it to us. Whenever an inspector goes out on the road, because they have the right to, an inspection is not like an accusatory situation. It is a conversation. It is an investigation. It is, I am coming to speak to you as the owner. I am coming to speak to your HR representative if you have such a person or persons or team of persons. I will interview your staff if I need to, because you're paying for 2 people, but I see 10 on premises. Hey, what's going on? So we're not, you win more people over with honey than you do with anything else.
Yeah.
So when we come, we're not coming like, hey, I think you have 50 people, pay for the 50. No, let's have a conversation. I may need you to produce wage records. The law does allow us to request certain things. It does allow us to interview employees, etc. But again, the onus is on the employer. We won't know everything. We try to be proactive, and this initiative and other initiatives that will come is for us to show that we're here, we're people, and we want to build that relationship with you. So if you need to see us, we'll come to you if you need us to do that. But again, like I said, the onus is on the employer. You have to furnish us with the information, but the employees, be proactive, trust but verify. Let us know if something's off or incorrect, and that will empower us to do our job.
Yep.
Yeah, and I just I love what Regina mentioned, because another thing too, and they are knowledgeable. They know what we do and what they're trained at NIB. I don't think they can learn anywhere else in the Bahamas. It's a very niche type of training, and so they know how to read the system, and they can quickly tell you when they look at your records. Oh no, I can see why. X, Y. We've had instances where it may be incorrect national insurance number. You may be putting in an incorrect employer number. You may be putting it to the wrong month. There are different nuances. And so, like Marvin has said, like Regina has said, the first line is always going to be pick up the phone and speak with your inspector.
Yeah. Wow.
Let's find out where the issues lie. We're not accusatory. We're simply giving you the information that's based on what we see in our system.
Yeah.
But you could take that another step further. You don't even have to do it the old-fashioned way, where you speak to your inspector and you submit 3-ply C10 payments and go to the cashier's window, and then you wait for someone on the back end to post these records when they get to them. Use the employer self-service portal. It is end-to-end communication with our Social Security system in real time. You don't have to wait for a person to post the money to your account and then somebody else to post contribution records
Right.
to reflect
Wow.
that. Use the employer self-service portal or use the C10 mobile app.
Yeah.
We've invested a lot of money in technology. There are more things coming out. Anybody who uses our website, you'd see some things are changing. We are hoping to release a brand new, more user-friendly website soon. I can't give a date for that. At some point, we want to have a claims portal where you just upload the claims there. You follow it in real time to see where it is. So we're working on some technological advancements, and we want to encourage the public to use them.
Well, all right. So has there been backlash? Any comments since what was said earlier in the week, other than what you are?
Talking about CPR.
Yeah, and with from employers, from the business community.
No, so that comment, it to me, I'm not disregarding it at all. But we didn't experience much of that during our exercise, where businesses stated that they paid, but the system had incorrect information. So, whilst we obviously will take it into consideration, at the same time, most of the employers I'm the manager, but I also went out on the road with my team every single day. Most employers were very calm.
Yeah.
They knew that they had not paid, and they said, "How can I fix this?"
Yeah.
Right.
The employees of those businesses, they thoroughly enjoyed us on the premises. They felt as if someone was looking out for them, being more present, being more active, and engaging with them. And so, as far as us having incorrect information, not so much. But if those issues do occur, obviously there are many ways to rectify it. We're not in the business of making false allegations. That's not our primary goal at all.
Yeah.
We just want to make sure that what you've paid and what we see coincide. And once you're up to date, we're gravy.
Right. And I think Leo Lundy,
Dr. Leo Roll.
Dr. Leo
The
Roll,
chamber.
I think, what he put out there, it's his job to, make certain comments. I don't think it was a bad comment necessarily. I think it was just almost like cautionary, like,
Right.
you know.
Can I say something also? I really I want to thank NIB for creating these platforms so people can have options to pay, and for the Chamber Commerce comment, if persons want to make sure that their contributions are posted immediately, go on the ESS portal, sign up, and immediately, Dwight, when you make your payment, you are posted automatically. As opposed to when you pay manually, then you have to wait for one of our personnel to post it. There's a little lag there, and I understand there can be a little bit of frustration there, because I've seen it where an employee comes and they are angry, and then someone tell them nothing is there for you because and it don't look so. It takes a minute for them to get posted. But if you want efficiency, then sign up for our ESS portal, pay online, and there will be no lag at all. Automatically, you'll see a posting the same day you paid it.
All right, the phone lines are blinking. Got to get to these calls. Again, we're talking with Gemma Roche, Marvin Duncombe, and Rudina Baston with NIB. Callers, I know you've been waiting for a long time. Are you still there? Good morning, caller. You're live on the air. Are you there? Let's take the other one. 323-6232. 325-4316. 325-4259. Call us toll free from the Family Islands. 242-300-5720. Continue to send you text messages 422-4796. Caller, good morning. Hi, good morning. You're on.
Hey, morning, Dwayne. How you doing?
Doing well.
Hey, Rita. Yeah, I would like to tell the public I do not envy these people's jobs. First of all, right, nothing always goes smooth with what they're actually talking about. Sometimes they will get you straight, right? But sometimes the situation actually ends up in court because the employer be stubborn and in situations that it actually took place. I want the public to every 6 months just go and check on your NIB just to make sure that it is actually being paid. One thing I want to mention is, right, from an experience of mine, I like NIB to go into the system, right, and do something with their system because I experienced a situation during the pandemic when I wasn't working for about 16 weeks and the employer actually refused to sign the form for me to claim. So that was, Dwight, when I tell you the BS I gone through just to try get my contributions, it was absolute a nightmare. Just based on the fact that the employer was being petty, just not to sign the form. All he had to do was just sign the NIB form for me to claim.
Wow. Okay.
16 weeks. So now they had to actually go in the system to verify that I was actually working at the place. It was just a nightmare. So I just want NIB to just try do something with that situation. I mean, you can't really penalize the person. I'm not talking about that. But
I think they can penalize
I'm going
the
to
person.
answer that.
But let's get them to respond to that. Thank you for that. Appreciate it.
Thank you, caller. I am so sorry for whatever it is that you went through during COVID. It was a difficult time for everyone. Not being able to work, compounded with not being able to claim from NIB could not have been a good experience. So, I'm so sorry for whatever you went through. I am happy that you shared your experience because this allows me to speak to one of the recent amendments that we had last year. It is now an amendment that has been put in place. So it is now against the law. It's been made illegal for employers not to furnish us with their supplemental form that accompany, and for example, the unemployment, the B80 form, or if somebody is putting in for sickness or maternity benefit, the employer's form that accompanies that. If you fail to furnish that within the time frame required, that is failure to produce. That is a prosecutable case that the inspector will prepare a case for. If the inspector comes to you and says, this person is putting in for a benefit, but we don't see the contributions, can you furnish the records? Because I want to make the public aware. In order to pay a benefit, we need to know what your income or your insurable wage is because that's how we calculate the benefit you are entitled to. When the inspector comes to you and saying make payment at the same time, give me the records so we could go ahead and calculate what this person is entitled to. We could deal with payment on the back end. Maybe that's a payment plan, something else, but give me the records so we can pay them. But if you refuse to provide that information or sign that form or whatever it is, that is a failure to produce case, which is separate from failure to pay, where we're prosecuting you because we know how much you owe us, but you're failing to pay us. So failure to furnish us with your form as the employer that accompanies that employee's application for a benefit, again, whether that's the sickness, maternity, whatever it is, that is prosecutable by law.
Okay.
Right? So we have taken some steps in all those amendments we had last year, caller. So we are taking steps to do that.
Yeah.
Right. And this speaking to your employers as well that are listening. So what Regina has said is absolutely correct. I would say this. Whenever you terminate an employee, when you give them whatever notification, severance pay, what have you, give them the termination certificate as well. Give them the NIB B80 form. Okay? That is what you want to do. It is really unfair to terminate coming back to you weeks and months trying to get a form filled out. You know, it's really a cruel thing to do. You've already decided, I don't want this person a part of my establishment anymore. That's fine. Why see them 3, 4, 5 times? Because they have to keep coming back to you to complete this form. Give them everything that they need. And so that's going to be our B80 NIB termination certificate.
Okay.
The form allows, if there's any reason that for dishonesty or for theft, or if they volunteer to leave as well, you can put that explanation on the form. So don't think just because, well, they asked to leave or they quit, that you don't have to complete that form.
You do.
You still have to complete that form. You simply put the reason voluntary resignation.
Right.
If you let the person go for dishonesty or for fraud or any
theft,
type of
yeah.
misrepresentation, you can also put that on the form as well.
And they send that directly to you, or
They bring that directly to National Insurance.
the employee does?
The employee does when they are submitting their unemployment benefit. The idea is that what we're saying is that the form is mandatory. It must be completed by the employer whenever the employee-employee relationship has been severed.
Right.
That employee is going to walk in there with a form that says I was fired for theft, or
Yeah.
just, yeah.
Oh, we need to know that.
Oh
Yeah.
boy.
Because by law, if you were terminated for fraud, theft, or dishonesty, you lose a portion of the unemployment benefit. You do. Or if you
lose the-
voluntarily left.
Right. Now, Dwight, sometimes employers, because they are non-compliant, they don't want to sign the form at all. But we're encouraging them to sign the form and provide us with the records.
Right.
And so we can go ahead and make sure that we compensate the employee who should not be disenfranchised because you didn't pay a contribution. We will take that record information, we will make sure that the employee gets sorted out, and we go after for non-compliance. But do not allow the fact that you haven't paid cause the employee to be disenfranchised, because we can use that information on the records to help give that employee his
Their
benefit.
benefits.
All right, let's take another call. Good morning, you're on the air. Hi, good morning. All right, caller, good morning, you're on the air. Not very patient callers this morning. Okay. Call back, 323-6232, 325-4316, 325-4259. This texter says, I've been trying to get the ESS for months now and haven't gotten a reply. I've emailed customer service a number of times and gotten no reply. And I've tried calling them, but still nothing.
If I'm not mistaken, the email address is ess@nib-bahamas.com. If that doesn't work, I can get that texter's information and we'll reach out to them directly.
All right. Caller, good morning. You're live.
Good day, hope all is well. So employees and employers, we are all important, so make sure you pay contributions to the best you can. And NIB, come on, y'all make sure be lenient to the employers, because the fund was really, really up and going real good until, people started replace whatever y'all take away from the fund. Those people, less stressful going out on those roads. Everyone is very overwhelmed. A lot of suicides going on, a lot of stuff going on. So please, let's all work together, and governments, please be more sensitive, because
Okay.
we need to not have sway masters over us like the colonial system. We need people who are going to work together.
Okay, you're going
One
a little off the rails here. Regina, like we have to talk about this all the time. People
Yes.
think really quickly, because that's a whole other show.
Yeah.
All the borrowing and all that stuff, that does
That's
not
a whole show in
impact.
itself,
Right,
right.
but that does
No.
not impact what we're talking about.
No, it does
today.
not. There are certain things that NIB invests in. I would prefer to let the people in the investments department speak about that, but we do know money sitting in a bank does not earn money. So NIB does invest in things that it's safe for us to invest in, like government registered stock, treasury bills, etc. I don't work in that department, so I don't want to touch on that too heavily.
But
that
that's
doesn't
not
impact what we're
impacting
talking
you, what
about
you,
here
your
today.
benefits
liable.
or anything.
You're still liable.
still liable.
As an employer.
And it's not causing you to not get the benefits.
No.
No,
It has-
no.
It's it has nothing. One has nothing to do with the other.
Correct.
You're still liable. You still have a responsibility. The rule of thumb is that contributions are paid whenever wages are paid. So if you are in fact in the right frame of mind, or because I heard it talked about suicide, or you're in the a good financial position to actually pay wages to employees, then you're also required to pay the national insurance contributions. Currently, after July 2024, obviously we had our rate increase, and I'll just remind the public again, the employee deduction is 4.65%, and the employer portion is 6.65% for a total of 11.3. And so, if you're in the capacity where you can run a business, you must not be that suicidal. I don't know. But if you're in a business and you can pay wages to the employee, we'll still be saying just give us our portion out of those wages. That's all national insurance contributions are. It's a deduction.
But at the end of the day, we always want to remind the people that we're not machines. We're not robots working behind the scenes. We're people. And the message we want to get out there is we're not some big bullies who are just going to show up on your doorstep and going to say, we're here to prosecute you. No, let's have a conversation, right? What's going on with the business? Our first inkling is never prosecution. That's a very last step. Marvin and Gemma can say,
Absolutely.
we want to have a conversation at first. Let's find out what's going on. What happened here? What do you need a payment plan to help you? Let's see how we can facilitate that. Prosecution is never at the forefront of our operations because we want to work with you. At the end of the day, we just need to provide the vital Social Security services that NIB was established to do.
All right, let's see if we can squeeze these in very quickly. We're running out of time. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Hey, morning, Dwight. Just one more thing I want your guests to iterate the general public, right? Could they please tell the general public that NIB contributions were not actually sole purpose for you to survive? Because some people are under the impression that you're supposed to survive off NIB contribution after retirement, but that's actually not the whole purpose of NIB.
Right. Thank you, caller.
true.
I did use a phrase earlier, pillar. I did state that NIB is just one pillar. You will not, by any means, be able to afford to live off NIB. That's not what it's designed for. NIB provides partial income replacement. So, in any instance, whether you're out on sick, maternity, industrial injury leave, you're at the end of your work life, or it's in the case of the breadwinner, the family being deceased, and you need some help or some assistance, we will never provide what you are earning completely from your employer. It is
Exactly.
one pillar. It is wise. It is prudent to seek other sources, especially if you're nearing the end of your work life. You're retiring. Everybody's going to near retirement. Don't wait until the day of to panic and say, what am I going to do?
Yeah.
Start to make investments now, whether that's the fund that goes hand in hand with what your employer is already providing, investments, maybe you start a business, but we all have to do it.
Yeah.
Right.
Let's take this final call. Good morning. Caller, you're on the air.
Yes, good morning. How you doing?
Doing well.
Good. I am calling just to commend NIB. I recently retired the same month, in fact, when I applied for my retirement pension. And I was stunned. I retired the 6th of June this month. And you won't believe it, I already got paid.
Wow.
I can't believe it. I tell people that they can't believe it. I said, you won't believe I got paid. They told me I was getting paid
Yes.
for this month. But I didn't believe it. I already got paid for 3 weeks
June.
for June, and June ain't over yet.
Thank you,
3
caller.
weeks, that's a good thing.
Yes.
So I just call to commend that service. Y'all doing a wonderful job. The public service is another story because you have to wait forever and ever to get your first month of pension. I want to talk about the gratuity lump sum.
my.
So you guys are
Well,
doing
we'll
a
do
good
that.
job. I
That's
just call to
a different
commend
show.
you.
Thank
right.
you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
But what I want to say on that instance is what likely happened is it sounds like she works for government. All of her records were already in. So when those claims officers went in to calculate her benefit, everything was there. Nothing was missing. Her form was filled out entirely. Please, listening public, when you put in a form or an application for a benefit, answer every single question, sign it, have a number there. We can reach you out, put your email address, because if we need to find you to say, hey, this is what we need from you, we need to be able to do that. But all of her contributions were likely there. Nothing was missing. Her form was filled in correctly. That allowed us to adjudicate her claim and get that paid quickly.
Right.
That's likely what happened.
And those I just want to thank that caller, but I'm a part of Speakers Bureau, obviously. All of us here are. And I can tell you, those success stories are not rare. We have persons who come all the time and they stand up in the audience and they say, when I left my job or when my wife died, I can attest that I was able to benefit from national insurance. I depend on my national insurance payment every month. I know it's going to come through. I got it processed quickly. I was surprised. And so this is Social Security. This is what we do. We provide that level of comfort for persons in times of need. And so I just want to speak to the caller that called earlier regarding the ESS or the text you got. Our numbers for ESS are 502-1500, so that's 502-1500, extension 8900. Also, 225-5642.
It's called NIB.
225-5642. You can also team lead at 502-7614 or 13. And so this is going to put you in contact directly with our employer self-service team, not customer service, not the switchboard. It's going to put you directly where someone is waiting to assist you with onboarding with ESS right now.
Really quickly, we're out of time, but this person's saying that I live in the Bahamas and my entire earnings are made in the U.S. Am I still, I am required to pay Social Security and taxes in the U.S., but am I required to pay NIB in the Bahamas?
You live in the Bahamas. Uh-huh.
They make all their money in the U.S. Are they required to pay NIB here?
Is their employer domesticated in the United States or the Bahamas? And also,
let's assume it's the U.S., I guess.
Okay, so if the person lives in the Bahamas and their employer is domesticated or registered in the United States, then no.
Oh, really?
Yeah. All right. And also,
even if they are Bahamian, I assume they're Bahamian. Yeah.
Right. So it's twofold. It's going to be firstly whether or not the business is actually domesticated in the Bahamas, and also whether or not the employer is ordinarily domesticated in the Bahamas. So let's say, for instance, you work for a company that's registered in the Bahamas, but you get sent off for a brief period. You're not actually domesticated in the United States. Let's say you go off to the United States for 4 months or whatnot. Your employer is still required to pay your contributions because you're not ordinarily domesticated in the United States. But if it is whereby this is a United States company, I'm using the United States as an example, obviously. But let's just say, this is a United States company, you are a Bahamian, but you came home for a brief period, but you ordinarily live in the U.S., then we'd say no.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. We might have to do a part 2 of this. There's a whole lot of questions coming in.
I know.
So
it's a hot topic.
Yeah.
NIB is always a hot topic.
Definitely. Gemma Roach, Marvin Duncombe, Regina Basden, thank you so much for being here this morning.
Thank
It's been a
you.
pleasure. We'll see you next month.
Yes.
And folks, be sure to pick up today's National Guardian, and especially the Guardian business section for the top business stories, brought to you in part by CFAL, growing wealth for future generations. And just as we go, severe weather warning is in effect for Bimini and Grand Bahama, and a severe weather watch in effect for New Providence and Central Andros. That's in effect until 11 o'clock this morning. We're expecting Severe weather all day today. So keep that in mind if you are in most of the country, northern, northwest, and central Bahamas today. We'll be back tomorrow morning with more Morning Blend and Morning Blend Business here on Guardian Radio 96.9. Dwight Strawn, have a great day. Stay tuned for On the Clock with Aaron Green coming up next. Do you want to say that really quickly? You got 10 seconds, Rudina. 10 seconds.
All right. I just needed to make a plug for persons who made application for their new NIB card. If you applied for a new NIB card at the beginning of this year or even anytime recently, please visit the local office where you applied for it. We need you to come and collect them. We don't want them to just be sitting there. Come and collect your NIB cards. Otherwise, at some point, they may result in cancellation. You have to apply for it all over again. So come and check on your NIB card that you made application for if you
and
recently
you all were telling
renewed
me
it.
off here that the expired cards, you are replacing them now. And so I need to get my new card.
Please.
Okay. All right. Appreciate it. Station for On the Clock with Aaron Green next.
At CFAL, we understand that a secure future is the greatest gift you can give your employees. That's why our tailor-made group pension solutions are designed to fit the needs of both large and small companies. With CFAL, you can provide the retirement you and your employees deserve, ensuring peace of mind and financial stability for years to come. Join the many businesses that have already entrusted CFAL to create the right pension plan for their employees, and let us help you build a brighter future for your team. Visit us at cfal.com to get started on building wealth so you can live well. CFAL, growing wealth for future generations.
Sign up now for the Michael Scooter Reed Peace on the Streets Basketball Classic. This is our 30th year, and we are doing it big. Sign up for 13 and under Tropical Gyro, 16 and under the Myers Group, Sun Oil, 20 and under in the Church Group, We Buy, You Sell, the Design Group in the Open Division, and for the first time, the Jamaica Bahamas Corporate Division. Competition begins July 14th to the 20th at the Hope Center. And then Kendall Isaacs. That's the Michael Scooter Reed Peace on the Streets Basketball Classic, where we shoot hoops instead of guns.
This is Guardian Radio 96.9, GuardianTalkRadio.com, and the Guardian Radio app, Nassau, Bahamas.